Hello, and welcome to the Community IT Innovators Technology Topics Podcast, where we discuss nonprofit technology, cybersecurity, tech project implementation, strategic planning, and nonprofit IT careers. Find us at communityit.com.
Welcome, everyone, to the Community IT Innovators Voices series. My name is Carolyn Woodard, and I am the Outreach Director at Community IT. And today I'm really excited to talk to Vince Grady, who is our new Chief Financial Officer, CFO. So, Vince, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us, what does a CFO do?
Sure. Well, it's great to be here. Thank you. As you said, I'm pretty new. I'm on, I think, month 8 of being here, which seems like it was just yesterday. So I suppose that's a good thing. But anyway, so what I do for the company is I'm in charge of all the, obviously, the financial reporting and analysis, kind of mapping out our future as far as budgeting and making sure we have a healthy path forward. I'm also in charge of a lot of the legal and regulatory compliance, so making sure that we are always following the rules that we need to. And also, I'm the kind of the ESOP, the employee stock owned trust, and the administrator for that. So kind of a mixed bag of things. The day is always interesting. So plenty to do.
What do you do on a typical day? Is it all meetings? Is it all regulatory, making sure things are correct, checking the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed?
Yeah. So I kind of have like my usual checklist. So I like kind of go through and go into our accounting software and just poke around and make sure things look good. Seeing what deposits we've gotten from like clients, and making sure that, and flagging accounts receivable to see if anything is kind of overdue. So it's kind of like the rote tasks that I do. My days now have been, well, interesting because there's so many initiatives that when I was hired, like everyone was like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this. So I have like my list of initiatives that I go through. And so right now I'm kind of dabbling in many different things at once. So I'm looking at our policies and procedures as a company and kind of looking at that every day and making little progress and making notes, kind of going over setting up department budgets so that when our leadership looks at our annual budget, we kind of have something there that we can kind of react to. So just kind of, it's kind of like big ticket items, but I'm kind of working on them every single day.
We had a CFO for a decade, I believe. So I'm sure there's always an opportunity when a new person comes in to look at all of the processes and just question, like, why are we doing it this way? Is there an easier way to do it? So are you finding some of that?
Yeah. And just to shout out to Bill, our former CFO, he was amazing. He left this place in really good hands. There's no fires that I have to put out. Everything is going great, and everything was set up for success. So there's not a whole lot of tinkering that, I mean, I could probably do as much as I want to. But yeah, just kind of, I think Johan, our CEO, when he hired me, he really wanted me to look at all of our systems and processes with fresh eyes. So I'm hoping I can expand on that and kind of, not everything needs to be fixed or tweaked, but kind of focusing on the parts that we could maybe be doing a little more efficiently, or if there's a different system that we should probably use that's going to give us more results. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
You mentioned earlier the employee stock option plan, and want to shout out that Community IT is 100% employee owned. So can you talk a little bit about that? I think it adds an extra layer of management onto our finances. Is that right?
Yeah, so yeah, it definitely works a little bit differently. And I, walking in, didn't have a lot of ESOP experience. I knew what an ESOP was. In one of my former roles, we were kind of toying with the idea of going ESOP, 100% ESOP. So I kind of knew how to get things started. But actually managing it is a whole different thing for me. And thankfully, again, shout out to Bill, our former CFO, was kind of like a wizard when it came to ESOP, and he has been mentoring me and giving me a lot of great information. The great thing about the ESOP world is it's fairly small, and there's lots of conferences and webinars, and so I've picked up so much information that way. But speaking to the actual ESOP, it does have administration piece to it. Of course, there's regulations and laws that we have to kind of follow. But we have a great team. We have a trustee, outside trustee, Paul Horn, who's been fantastic. So he's kind of like the overseer of our ESOP plan. And he has so much knowledge. And he has been, you know, a great resource for all of us, actually, not just me. So.
Yeah, I really, we have other resources on our site too about ESOP and the way that employee ownership works. It's just fascinating to me. And I really love at Community IT the way it works the way it's supposed to, or the way like we understand what some of the benefits are of the employees having a lot of knowledge and transparency about the way the business is working and how we're each a part of that. And it really helps employees stay for a longer time because we get very invested in the company being successful and doing the mission that we're interested in doing, serving nonprofits. So it's interesting to hear that you weren't an ESOP expert when you came in, but I guarantee you will be an ESOP expert by the time you're finished with your service with us because it is very complex, but just has so many benefits.
To your point, just talking about it as in like a cultural way, um, it really is cool how like seeing how being an ESOP affects the culture of our company, and I can see firsthand that it has such a positive impact on our, our employees, and everyone feels like so connected and has like pride and ownership in their work and our mission because they have a say in it ultimately.
Yes, I have been at other companies where there were mandatory, all staff meetings about this policy or that policy, and everyone was just didn't want to have to go, tuned it out, just did the minimum. But I've been just amazed as an employee of Community IT that those meetings are actually really interesting and everyone pays attention and has questions about, the different policies and the work of the company. So that's really, yeah, that's what an ESOP does, and it's great to experience it. So I wanted to ask you about your qualifications to be a chief financial officer. So what kind of training and background did you have when you applied for the community IT job?
I can start off by saying that I don't necessarily have like the pedigree qualifications of a CFO. I majored in political science, um, and I don't have like an MBA. But anyway, um, I've had lots of on-the-job training, which qualifies. So, um, but in my previous roles, I've kind of married finance and operations together. I think it's a really great quality to have in an executive or a CFO position because you're not just thinking about numbers. And I'm also able to, since I'm not like just a finance nerd, I'm able to talk to other people in a broader way and maybe a more understandable way about numbers instead of being just like an accountant. So I think that was an attractive quality as in the CFO role. And I've always been able to kind of wear many hats and pitch in where needed. And I really like doing that because one, it exposes you to so many different things. And I just, um, always want to be helpful where I can. So
No, I like that. That actually coincides with a lot of people at Community IT, the tech staff as well. Some of them were teachers before or had other roles. And so having a more developed background at a place like Community IT is definitely a benefit. So when you found out about the job opening at Community IT, how did that work? How did Community IT strike you? And what do you think it was about Community IT that made you excited to apply?
I found the job through a recruiter, I believe, that CIT had engaged for the search. And just looking at the mission and the clients that CIT served, it just felt like such a great fit for me. Um, in one of my previous positions, our company was like a behavior change marketing agency, and a lot of our clients were nonprofits. And it was such a rewarding experience, like kind of serving clients that had such a great impact, and it made everyone else feel really good. And I kind of wanted to get back to that kind of sentiment of, you know, helping others do something really good.
Do you have advice for other maybe finance nerds? People who either have that pedigree, they, did finance MBA as their studies, formal studies, or have some alternative experience like you did about getting into finance in nonprofits or a company like Community IT that serves nonprofits. Is there something you can do to make your resume stronger?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's all about just like, oh, I need this qualification or this certification, or I need to take, you know, these courses in order to kind of get into it. I think just getting exposed to so many different things, being open-minded about, what you wanted to do. Obviously, when I graduated college, I myself wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be a CFO one day. That wasn't, I was going to be a lawyer, which thankfully that didn't happen. So I just think being open-minded and not taking it too seriously. I mean, I think especially like working in the nonprofit kind of sector, um, you don't have to, it's not like a cutthroat environment where you're all trying to get to the next thing or trying to, you know, rise up. Um, I think it's more of a collective, collaborative space. And I think the people and the qualifications that you have should reflect that as well.
So maybe working on some of those people skills and soft skills is important.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I think soft skills and people skills are definitely go hand in hand and working in, the nonprofit space.
Sounds like you also had mentors, like you have a mentor now or a couple mentors in the ESOP space and our former CFO. Do you have any advice on how to look for those people who can help you figure out what you want to do, figure out what qualifications you need to attain, or where to look, maybe if you're making a career change? Do you have advice about that?
It doesn't have to be like your superior or anybody. It could be anybody who can qualify as a mentor, just whoever kind of really makes you feel safe and heard. Um, I've been fortunate enough to have a few um, bosses that, kind of fit that mold. And in a way that worked for me. So if if you're somebody that needs like um, more attention and more kind of guidance, then I think you should definitely search for somebody and a mentor that's going to fit that. If you want somebody who's going to be a little more hands off, but kind of in the background, I think, which has been kind of what I've been seeking for. I think that's definitely somebody that you should reach out to and, you know, get to know and see if they want to guide you.
Sounds like more of those developing those people skills and soft skills of figuring out your leadership style and communication style and finding someone who has a compatible style to that that's interested in mentoring you. So I think that's good advice. A lot of times advice on finding mentors is go to meetups or go, interview people at your company where you're working. And especially if it's you want to change your field or change your job, that can be a barrier to finding a mentor who's going to help you with that. So I think just keeping your options open, and when you meet someone that you connect with, even if they're not in your field at all, if they have some of those skills that you want to learn, you can have coffee with them.
Definitely. Yeah, I think knowing yourself and knowing what you need is super important and finding that. Yeah.
So that actually is a good segue into asking you about community IT, because I feel like our internal culture really encourages both we hire people like that who know who they are and what they want to do and are interested in learning more skills, different skills, doing what needs to be done. So when you think about how you talk about community IT to other people as a relatively new employee, what is your elevator pitch or your cocktail party explanation of what you do? What does community IT do?
Yeah. So, I mean, I could start out with we are a managed services provider that services nonprofit clients, which I mean, that is what we do. But I've been finding myself talking more and more about the culture and the people. For example, I feel like even though we're a company that's pretty much 100% remote, so we're not all in the same space all the time, but it still feels like such a community. And I think our leadership has really tried to make the culture like a community. And we do things like just different meetings and sessions throughout the months and years. I think those things are really helpful and important to kind of maintaining such a close-knit group of people, especially since we're spread all around the country. For an example, we just did our charity golf round for our client, Rosemont Center. And just 4 people coming together, three of us not very good golfers at all, and one person who was fairly good. There was no like one-upmanship or sportsmanship. Like if somebody made a really good putt or a really good drive, or their ball went into the woods and you never saw it again, we all just congratulated each other and high-fived, and it was just such a wonderful experience. And I think that really encapsulates what CIT is, and it's awesome and it's refreshing.
I was going to ask you about golf and you beat me to it. I have seen the photos and the video, and it looks like you guys had a blast and the weather was perfect. And it was so wonderful to help one of our clients, Rosemount Center, with their fundraiser and have a good time doing it. And I think you're right. That really describes what community IT internal culture is all about. So thank you very much for joining me, Vince. I really appreciate you taking the time to tell us about your job and community IT, and just thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate this. Thanks for listening.
Community IT does these free webinars and podcasts for our community, and we love sharing our knowledge and experience. If you have more questions or are having trouble with your IT at your nonprofit, please get in touch with us on our website, www.communityit.com, so we can start a conversation or schedule an assessment. Downloading any of our free resources there will get you signed up for our webinar reminders, and you can attend our next webinar in real time and ask our experts your own questions. If you love podcasts, please subscribe and leave us a rating to help others find this leadership resource for nonprofits.